Awesome. Okay,
Yay! Ding, 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 ding.
Ding, 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 ding. Hi, everybody. I'm out of breath. I literally just ran here.
See, if you'd been more prepared and just hadn't run out from the street straight into the studio and then it'd be great. But yes, good evening, everybody. Hope everyone has had a good week so far. It's been here in the UK. We've had a bank holiday Monday. So it's been technically a short week, but it's felt like such a long week. Well, for me anyway, it's been weird.
Yeah, we have a holiday on Monday, next Monday. So you get your short week this week. We get ours next week.
What's your occasion next week?
Oh, someday.
It's a day. Okay, that's
yeah.
good.
It's some day that I feel like I should know this. It's a day in which we get off from work. It is oh geez. Where's the holiday? I took the holiday calendar off my calendar. What holiday is on Monday? Labor Day. That's it.
Okay. Yes, that's quite an important one.
Yes. But I mean, like, it is. Historically, it is, right? It is a very important holiday. However, what we use it for here in the States is, you want to buy that big screen TV for less?
Yes.
And it's kind of a bastardization of the original. I mean, in some ways. In other ways, it's not so much, right? In other ways, it kind of, I don't know. I would hope that it would encourage workers to unionize, I guess, is what I'm getting at here.
Oh. Yes, we struggle with that anyway. But in fact, I was having a discussion just the other day about union membership and how it's gone down dramatically. And I was having the discussion around that and technology, because actually some of the unionization is hampering technology uptake, which sort of conflicted me greatly, being a
right,
a left-leaning involved in left-leaning politics, and then also highly involved in technology. And it's like, whoa, I don't know what to feel.
Aren't those like those moments of cognitive dissonance around political or even, it's not even political, it's like beliefs, right? Those the conflicting beliefs and representation. But those are weird moments.
Yeah, but then it's an interesting one, isn't it? Because it is actually quite an interesting sort of behavioural cultural issue, because this issue that I'm facing, or the issue that came up, I was like, well, actually, this shouldn't be an issue. We should just call it out for what it is. And they're like, oh, you can't do that because the unions have said that. And I'm like, yeah, but they're wrong. In this instance, they're wrong. And just because I'm of that persuasion doesn't mean that you shouldn't be calling out bad behaviour or things that are, that are causing blockers, and therefore discuss them, debate them, and make it better. So that's not everybody else had exactly the same opinion, shall we say? But there we go. But, oh, I might have a visitor who might want to come and say hello.
Oh,
my young son.
Oh, special guest.
Yes.
Hello,
Nick in the world.
Hello, Nick.
We are live.
Hello. We're live. This is you're being streamed to 400,000 people watching. Yes. Inflate those numbers a little bit. Are there even 400,000 human factors practitioners in this world?
Honestly, you want to be. But what he was doing this. I don't know whether you can see that, but look.
Oh, hey, look, you got it. It's there.
It is. So I've got a copy to send you, and stuff. So I shall throw that in the post. But yes, it hit the doorstep today. Very exciting. And very well written, if I do say so myself.
How many? Let me ask you, how many members in CIHF?
I would say maybe 1,000.
Okay.
No, it can't be that many. Is it that many? I think there is somewhere in the region of 600-700 chartered members. I could be grossly exaggerating that. And then you've got the different types of employees. I don't know. I would say about 1,000.
Okay. So HFES has 3,500 is the number that they're citing. So my claim of 450,000 human factors practitioners is wildly.
Well, no, but don't forget, not everybody signs up.
No, not everybody does. I'm thinking that
no.
Hang on. Now you got me down this rabbit hole. Let's look at percentage of population. Percentage of professional populations that join society.
I'm trying to work out if the CHF website has a oh, that's me. As a number on it. I don't think it does. It's a downside about in the UK me doing this 10 o'clock at night because I can't just easily message somebody because they're like gone home. Quite right too.
Okay, here I'm looking at organizational psychology degrees.com. I'm looking at let's see here. There's okay. According to the BLS, what is that? Oh, that's Bureau of Labor Statistics. Okay, that's great. There are. That's a U.S. number, but rah America, right? So let's see here. So, would you like to take a guess at how many psychologists? Let's just broaden this. Or sorry, wait, no, that's wrong. That's wrong. Hold on. I'm looking at. Okay, this is. Okay, wow. Okay, that's really. Hold on. Would you like to guess how many people were employed as psychologists as of 2019, according to the Bureau of Labor Statistics? This is all psychologists. This is all types of psychologists.
That's got to be a big number because it covers everything. So, I would have thought almost like tens of thousands, isn't there?
Okay, give me a number.
Okay. 70,000.
Okay, higher.
Oh, okay. See, this is where I struggle with the size comparison between the UK and the US because you guys in the US are just vast. I guess if your overall population is that, yeah, okay, you've got to be, I don't know, 200,000.
Yeah, 192,000.
Really?
So that's the number of all psychologists 2019.
See, even then, having said that, I would have probably said it probably should have been higher.
Yeah, I was thinking a little higher too, right? So in terms of clinical psychology, counseling psychologist or school psychologist, you want to guess how much of that 192,000 is reporting counseling, clinical, or school?
Oh, at least half.
At least half.
Yeah. So, so 120, 130,000.
You're going to say 130,000?
Yeah.
Okay, of the 192,000.
Yeah.
Okay, so the number is 171,500.
Wow.
So if you're looking at the delta between them, that's 192,300 minus 171,500. So that leaves us a potential pool of 20,800 here in the States, according to the Bureau of Labor Statistics. That could be any other type of psychologist outside of the clinical counseling domain.
Okay. Yeah.
That's pretty big. Now let's switch up some numbers here. Looking at occupational health and safety workers. It's a different number from psychologists.
Yeah.
We're looking at about 122,000. I'm not going to play the game. We're looking at about 122,000. And so let's see. Human factor psychology job. Where are the numbers for human factor psychology?
Whilst he's looking for that, if you are watching along with us, and what's your thought to these numbers? Should there be more? Well, clearly there should be more. But do you think these sound realistic? Drop us a message or even just say hello, because we don't just like sitting here talking to ourselves. Well, we do clearly because we do it every week, but it's more fun if you're there and interact with us.
You know what? Restream's funny sometimes because I set it to not link up with my personal Facebook, and it's linked up with my personal Facebook. Whoever's watching on my personal Facebook, hello. That's too late. I'm not going to change it now. I could probably change it here. I wonder if I can change it and end the stream there for just that one.
I
can. Whoever's watching on my personal Facebook, go look at the podcast page.
Yeah, bye.
There we go. This live stream has ended.
That's harsh.
Oh, well, I mean, it messes with the numbers for the podcast. That's the only reason why it bothers me, is because of the numbers that I measure that. I actually measure that. So
I just push it out across all of the platforms that I can. So.
Okay. Industrial organizational psychologists. Would you say that is the closest thing to human factors? Industrial organizational psychologists.
Probably, yeah.
IO Psych is pretty closely
fairly close. Yeah.
Okay. That number is 4,900
across the USA.
Entire USA.
Wow. I should come over there for a trip.
Yeah. So, and then you have psychologists, all other 55,000. So,
there's probably a bit of that bolted into there, isn't there? But even so, that's still consider what's the population of the USA apart from huge.
Huge. It as of the most recent census, it was 330 million, I think, or just about.
Yeah. We clearly need more human factors practitioners in that. In that.
So they have industrial engineers. So it's hard to pin down a number here.
But it's going to be because we fit in so many different gaps.
We do.
So because engineers. I mean, I would fall more into the engineering thing because that's what my main degree's in. Whereas others, I know, psychologists, etc. So,
I am glad we have a diverse background here on the show, at least from, like I did the academic route. I'm psychology. You didn't do the academic route. You're engineer. Like that's a good contrast to have, and I like that. I appreciate that.
Yeah, because you make stuff up, and I have to work out how to make it happen.
Exactly.
So.
All right. Anyway, all that to say, there's probably not a whole lot of human factors practitioners out there. So, what I was trying to get to is like, we have numbers behind the scenes that we look at, and I was trying to see like what percentage of the population are we tapping.
Yeah, that's true. We could do a global number, couldn't we? I mean, we've got to be able to rough out a rough number.
Yeah, we should, and I mean, we could.
If we could engage with all of the organizations around the world and said, what's your membership? And if it gives a rough number of membership, then, of all the economic institutes around, and if we use that as our core demographic that we're trying to tap into, yes, there's still UX or not, which doesn't necessarily affiliate it, etc., but that will give us a sort of number to aim for. Unless it's really big, then we'll just be too depressed and not bother. But that will give us a driving target, wouldn't it?
It would, and really the thing that I'm most curious about isn't necessarily how many, like getting everybody. That's not possible. But what percentage of the population are we reaching? Because like. I don't know. You're on the number 1 Human Factors podcast. You're on the number 1 and number 2 Human Factors podcasts.
Depending on which
Look at that.
website you look at.
Yeah, depending on which one you look at, and depending on what metrics you're using. Yes, absolutely.
It's yes, because I found the other day that actually on Apple Podcast itself, my the RSS feed hadn't updated from my old host to my new host, which was like months ago now, and so that's why Chartable wasn't working for me in the way that it should be. And so I went through a whole admin exercise of making sure that was all squared away, and it's now all good.
You just scared me because my Chartable's not working, and I'm wondering if it's the same issue.
Did you try and do it through a 403?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you've still, even though so the 403, it's supposed to allow, update it through Apple and all that sort of stuff. Apple, it doesn't do it. At least that's what I found. So the Apple doesn't naturally update because of the 403. It does the redirect, but it doesn't update its own listing. So you need to go into Apple and update the RSS feed to be the latest one. If that makes sense.
Oh no, we have no problems on Apple. Okay, whew. That's
Cool.
a big share of our listeners. That's why I was like,
Mm-hmm.
All right.
Oh, I spelled that wrong. I haven't checked it more recently since I
Okay. All right.
I think the last time we spoke about it, I was like, but it's not saying anything, and it's not got any of my stuff in there. And then now it does. So it's still, yes, because it's still less than 30 days that I've done it, so it doesn't have my downloads in 30 days.
I need to figure out our Chartable because I it's broken and it's been broken. I just don't know what's going on.
Well, they're pushing down now to have to use smart links, and I think they're putting their focus into them. Unfortunately, with my host, you can't use smart links. But what was interesting is my host has just, I think I mentioned this the other week, has now come up with a whole bunch of other stuff. It's really interesting around education and stuff like that. So training you how to do different things and do some advertising and do some other little bits and bobs, which I've not had a chance to play with. But I think it could be quite good fun. Right.
I feel like short of like turning off my account, I don't know how to fix this issue because there's like, well, hang on. Integrations. See, that one's pro, I think. Is that one pro? Yeah, you have to upgrade your plan. Do you have the upgraded plan?
No, I'm too tight for that.
Yeah, same. You need one for Spotify too. That's a bummer. This Trackable though, that's what I'm interested in, and it is.
That's the one I can't use.
Oh, really? Is that
because Blueberry doesn't recognize it yet? It's not. It won't play with it. But then Blueberry's analytics are really good anyway. So.
Yeah. See, it works with my provider, although for whatever reason, it just does not want to. It just doesn't want to go. Anyway, that's neither here nor there. I have some exciting things to talk about in the post show. That is my one more thing this week, and so I don't want to talk about it here in the pre-show.
Fair enough.
Give everybody a little tease. It is good, man. It's so good. It's so good.
I'm now just going to scroll down and read your one more thing before we.
I know. I know. Are you looking at it now?
Yes, I've just read it. Done. It's what I think you've done. Then very cool.
Yeah. I say one word but mean another. And because that's how they put it, is that other word. And let's just say there's some good stuff.
Cool.
That's vague enough. That's vague enough.
Yeah,
Let's see
works.
here. Do I have the number in there? Hold on. I feel like. Oh yeah, this one. Yeah, that's so good. So good. Okay.
Actually, looking at the notes, have we got you're doing slightly different style from it came from? So you're doing short and
So
yes, see what you mean.
I took the like main thing just that way we have the full context, and in case there's any additional things that like we're missing there. That's obvious.
Yeah, that's cool. It makes it slightly punchy as well, which is good.
Yeah, I'm also thinking about sort of the way in which we slice up these videos for public consumption. Oh, hey, comment here.
Oh, there's somebody actually listening.
There's a couple of people listening. Lakalecha, I'm excited for the main story this week. I'm actually doing some work on video games and its effect on social opinions.
Oh, cool. Okay.
Very cool. Yeah.
Actually, that's one thing. We should really discuss that in the date. Have you got some notes on that? Most of mine is sort of focused on the the violence aspect because that's kind of what
violence. On the so are you talking social opinions like we should put that in there like general. I think this has shifted over time, and we can talk about this in the show, but like generally it used to be like, oh, video games and violence, and you're playing these really hyper violent games and it's gonna make kids
It would be
well, anyway, we live in the States where you can purchase firearms. Anyway, so
yeah, there is a slightly different dynamic there.
Yeah,
it was still a shocking time for me. I think was it the first or second time I was in the States and went to a large store and was going and you could buy sort of aisle 1 was jeans, aisle 2 was tops, aisle 3 was handguns, aisle 4 was ammunition, and aisle 5 was shotguns. I'm like, dude.
yeah.
Interesting. But there is something there around how video games shape social opinion doesn't necessarily have to be in a big way, but could they be using it to encourage opinion and sort of shape opinion? In fact, so they've just added a second comment around if we use in fact, we shouldn't be talking about it now because we should talk about it in the show. But
we'll pull it in. I'll
exactly. Using it as a platform to push that social opinion across. So, be political campaigning. If you stuck a bit of socialist campaigning into, I don't know, Modern Warfare 2, for example, then with the random stuff that you see on maybe some of the boards in the sides or so in the narrative or whatever, and sort of either being anti-communist or something like that, then or socialist socialist healthcare, or actually just plugging them bits of narrative, because a lot more games are a lot more narrative now than when I was a lad, as it were.
Well, like you have censorship in certain countries too, right? Like punching Nazis in one game, but in Germany, well,
it's not as popular to do that. No.
Yeah. So.
Probably for fairly understandable reasons.
Yeah. So anyway, yeah, it feels like definitely one of those things where yeah, like I was telling you before we actually went live, I think this is one of our notes that has the most freeform stuff that we've had in it in a while.
Yes,
if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's kind of nuts.
But then there's so many places that this goes, because I quite like because you got the basic premise of it, but then it's like we can then springboard that into how are people using games. So that's what I've done a lot of work in how we're using video games to recruit people, which actually fits again with the comment that's been made. How do we do it for recruitment? How how can we use them in different ways? And I think there's a lot there. And I've got some notes in there about how some of the physical things have influenced as well, which is quite neat. So.
Okay, we're 5 minutes out. Let's do one more check over the notes here, just to make sure we are solid. We got the intro. We got this thing. I'm gonna put a little bit of separation there so I remember to do it, and then. So I was playing around with the idea of potentially communicating the news that we don't talk about, as well as the top story.
Okay.
Because when we first started this format, which was like episode 20 or something, we went the route of doing like 1 to 3 stories a week, and because there was a lot to talk about. There still is. There's we have 4 things to choose from every week.
Mm-hmm.
And so I don't know if there's a way that we can sort of do that in the show, right? Like without, I want it to be scalable. So I want it to be like, reading headlines, but then some of them are just like throwaway stuff that doesn't quite make sense to put in, like without the context.
Yeah, I guess so. What in a similar way that we do the roundup at the end of the year?
Yeah, just something along the lines of in other news this week, blah blah blah. All right, now, and kind of do them at the top.
We'll give it a go.
We got these stories of news, and our top story this week is Barry.
Yeah,
something like that. I thought I played around with the idea. I don't know.
Yeah, so it's basically reading out what the other three contenders were. So these were the stories that were considered this week, but the one we're going to go into detail with is this.
Yeah, and maybe it's a slow reveal of like, I mean, a reveal doesn't make sense because you got it in the title.
Yeah, that's true.
And our top story this week is.
But understanding what because
what it was up against.
If you've been on Twitter or Facebook, been on Twitter or the Patreon or whatever, then you'll know what the outcome is, because you'll see, or you'll have a rough idea anyway of what it's going to be. But knowing what the
I don't know, that something weird happened last night or not last night. It was Tuesday. It was Tuesday when I was doing the news, so it was like early morning, I guess, because I look at those polls occasionally, and I'm like, okay, and what happened was. One was ahead, and then I think when I checked on Tuesday, one was ahead, and then I checked on Wednesday, and another one had pulled ahead. And so it was one of those things where I'm like, oh, I genuinely don't know what we're talking about this week.
Yes, because I've got to be honest, I didn't think this story was going to win.
No, I didn't either. But there was, what was the other one that was... It was the 4th one, whatever that one was. It was the
yes, the knobs in vehicles.
Yeah, it was the one that you put. And I was like, oh yeah, that's definitely going to win, and we have plenty to talk about there. And
that's right.
And then I logged in
tonight, and I was like, you what?
Yeah.
Oh, it's nearly time. It's like
it is. Are you just about ready?
I'm always ready. Whether I'm competent or not is a different matter.
Let's see. One more thing before we start. Hang on. I'm just gonna pull these in. 2.
See.
I'll
start yawning now.
What's that? Don't yawn.
I was gonna say, just as we say we're gonna start, I'm starting to yawn. I had to take a nap earlier on today.
That way, I don't have to futz with this thing. All right. We got 1 minute. Okay, Barry, tell me your deepest, darkest secret. Ready? Go.
Okay, here we go.
Human Factors Cast brings you the best in human factors news. Welcome to Human Factors Cast, your weekly podcast for human factors, psychology, and design.
Hello, everybody. This is episode 257. We're recording this episode live on September 1st, 2022. This is Human Factors Cast. I'm your host, Nick Roome, joined today by Mr. Barry Kirby.
Hi there, Nick.
How's the weather over in the UK?
It's nice. It's actually a lovely warm evening. Quite enjoying it. It's going to change though.
It's going to change? All right. Well, I don't even know what the weather's like over here. Anyway, we're not here for the weather. We're here to talk about how video games might affect our well-being, and later we're going to check in with the community and answer some questions about human factors being too specialized, the UX research job market being saturated, and some workarounds for posting restricted work examples. But first, hey, did you know that we post weekly roundups on our blog? Well, we also post monthly ones too, and that one is out now. So if you missed any of the Human Factors news over the month of August, go check it out on our blog. Barry, I want to know what's going on over at 1202.
So at 1202, we published the interview with Susie Broadbent, which is looking at applying human factors on the ground, or it's that real-world application of the methods and procedures that we all read in books and want to do them properly. But she gave us some guidance and some insights into some of the adaptations you have to do to deal with real-world examples. But I went into a slightly different sphere for the next episode, in that I've let somebody else do the interviewing. Now, being a bit of a control-oriented person that I am, this was quite a difficult thing to do. But Mike Bates, who's a lecturer in human factors at the University of South Wales, used our platform to interview Gordon DuPont, the author of what is commonly known as the Dirty Dozen. And if you don't know much about them, then firstly, listen to the next episode. But they're really the 12 elements that influence why people make mistakes. And he developed these years ago, and they've been a common standpoint going forward. So this has been interesting. It's going to be used in two different ways. Firstly, it's going to be used for the channel for the 1202, but it's also going to be used as university content for Mike to be able to teach his students. So that's been quite a novel experience for me, which I did last week. So that should be going live basically a week on Monday. So quite looking forward to seeing how that looks.
Yeah, that'll be awesome to check out. Anyway, let's get to the news. That's right. This is the part of the show all about human factors news. Barry, we got a fun one this week. What's our story?
This one's brilliant. So the story is about we may never fully know how video games affect our well-being. So for decades, everyone's worried that video games are bad for us. They encourage violent behavior or harm mental health. These fears have spilled over into policy decisions affecting millions of people. So the World Health Organization added gaming disorder to its international classification of diseases in 2019. Whilst China restricts people under 18 from playing games for more than 3 hours a week in a bid to prevent minors becoming addicted. However, in recent years, a growing body of research has argued that video games are in fact good for us, improving cognition, relieving stress, and bolstering communication skills. The reality, a new study suggests, is we just simply don't have a good grip on how games affect our well-being, if at all. The research described in the Royal Society Open Science Journal last month found little to no evidence for a causal connection between gameplay and well-being, meaning that the time spent playing video games had neither a negative nor a positive effect on players' emotional health. Ultimately, despite researchers' best efforts, academics studying games are unlikely to reach a solid conclusion on how they affect us, says Yemaya Halbrook, a psychology researcher for the Lera Esport Science Research Lab at the University of Limerick in Ireland. They're going to say, whilst we've been moving away from that slowly over the last decade or so, I don't think there's ever going to be a general consensus that video games have no positive or negative effect, or only a positive effect. There's always going to be those people that say the video games are bad for you and cite biased research. we might be able to move them in a direction that says games aren't entirely bad, but I don't think we'll ever get to everybody to agree on a singular point, even if it's complete, total fact. People are not like that. So, Nick, what do you think? Are you a gaming junkie? Do you think it affects your health in a way, in a positive or a negative way?
Yes, yes, and yes. So let me start by saying we took this number out of the blurb, but this wasn't just a study of college students. This is a huge study. 38,935 gamers or players. It's a huge study, and I think you're right. I do. This is self reflection here, and I'm sure everyone can relate in some way, shape, or form. But all things in moderation. Um, and so to me, it doesn't surprise me that I'm trying to avoid that phrase that you have written down in your reaction. But to me, it doesn't surprise me that there's inconclusive evidence either way, or that there's sort of this disagreement scientifically about which one might have sort of more, which one weighs more. Do the positives outweigh the negatives? Do the negatives outweigh the positives? And because of that, that's why there's so much stuff around it. I'll get into some of the other points I have later. But Barry, what is your initial thoughts on this?
Yeah, I'm going to dive into straight with yay for it depends. And that's kind of the point, really, isn't it? I think we've had this piece where gaming has evolved over time. So gaming when I first started gaming was very simple. The technology was very, very simple. And whereas now we get increased complexity, increased levels of immersion, and a whole drive through around, because you've got two different types of gaming as well. You've got gaming on devices that are much simple, but then you've got platforms that cost an awful lot of money, giving you a high quality gaming experience, which people invest in. So it goes down to, can we suspend disbelief in the level of the way we immerse ourselves in these games, and what effect does that have on well-being? Because we know that we need to change. We need to have a bit of a change. We need to have a break from the work that we're doing. And so does a little, playing a little game on your phone actually help you do that? And do having some games on your computer from simple things like maybe solitaire and things like that, all the way through to multiplayer games that you can play for maybe an hour out of your day, or if I get going, then maybe a few more hours than that. Then there's something around it. But really, what this is leading to is we need to have another study. There's going to be more studies on this. There's going to be lots of studies giving us the conclusion of we need another study. I've spent a lot of time doing work in the blend of live and synthetic training for the military, and inevitably I've done studies that you'll do one study, you'll come with an answer, and then somebody else says, oh well, we need another study to do that. And I've kind of done the same study over and over again for quite a number of years. So this sort of feels a bit like that, but I'm pleased that there's some bits out there that on some really, like you're quite right to point out that number. That's a significant number of engagement, which I think will give us some really good bits to discuss.
Yeah. There's so much with this article. I don't even know truthfully where to begin with this. I think maybe what we can start with is just our general experience with gaming and sort of what our habits are. So that way everyone has like a little bit more of a frame of reference from where we're coming from with respect to some of these claims here in this article. So for me, right now I'm an everyday gamer. There are periods of time where I am a once every 7-8 months gamer. Right now I'm an everyday gamer because I just got a new console and I have a bunch of games to catch up on because it wasn't available for a very long time. So that's where I'm at. And I've been spending several hours an evening doing so over the last, I guess, couple weeks. So that's where I'm at. I do sort of know that everything in moderation, right? But that's where I'm at. I wouldn't consider myself a hardcore gamer, but definitely one that enjoys gaming.
Okay.
I'm not a fake gamer.
So I'm less of a hardcore gamer in that respect. Yes, we do have a couple of platforms, but I tend not to use them. I will spend a fair bit of time playing games on my phone, things like that. I've got a current moderation problem with the online game Valorant at the moment. So I play. So it's that's one of my go-to games at the moment. I will play that, say, maybe once a day or a couple of times a day. Playing that, which is just because it's simple enough for me to engage with, but actually the online multiplayer game is, I think it's really slick. But I'm not down to the picking up a gaming platform and spending loads of time on that anymore. I've sort of gone through that platform phase, I think. Though I'm liking a lot more of the VR stuff, so like Oculus Rift and things like that. Oculus Quest, sorry, and sort of I'll experiment with them, but I don't think I'm necessarily going to put out hours of my day to go and engage with it. However, I've done an awful lot of research around it, and like I said in the intro bit, the way that we use serious gaming with it for training and things like that, I've spent probably a couple of decades researching into and utilizing. So I get that might be a reason why I don't actually play games so much, is because I've done so much work on them. Then it maybe feels like a bit of a working task as well as that. So maybe this is proving to be a bit of a reflective session in that sense.
Oh man, when games feel like work. So I want to jump into sort of the central crux of this article, and really I think why we'll never have that definitive answer, or at least in the near future we won't have that definitive answer, because there's two things, right? We're talking about mental well-being as it relates to playing video games, and really, is it good or bad for the soul is kind of the question, right? That is the hypothesis, and there are some good things with video games. Obviously, you mentioned some of them in the blurb, but I'm going to go through a list here, right? For me, it's quite a meditative experience, and I've actually talked to my therapist about this. It allows me to clear my mind entirely of the world's problems. And that's escapism. But it also allows me to get into a flow. It helps me relax, calm down from the day. It also helps with sort of concentration. I can focus in on a task. Someone with ADHD, that's really helpful to have something to focus in on and have something to do where you feel passionate about it. It also just makes me feel better. So it can improve your mood. And really, like I said, it helps me unwind at the end of the day. I wait till my son's asleep and then I pull out the controller and play for a couple hours. And it's just decompressing over the day. And so there's sort of, if you think about well-being, there's tiebacks to some of the stuff that we talked about before, like how can we better define mental health? That was an episode that we did. It was episode 236 for anyone who wants to go back and listen to it. But really, we're talking more about mental health in a sense of sort of exercising your mind rather than thinking of it as like a patch, right? So a patch to solve the problem. And so I think when you're thinking about sort of this mental well-being with video games, it is sort of the same thing. You got to exercise your mind and control to be able to play and experience these things like flow, relaxation, concentration, but not become so addicted to it that it starts to have some of those detrimental effects. There's also other mental well-being things that can sort of stick out here. I'm thinking like empathy, compassion for non-player characters or player characters for that matter. You mentioned that a lot of games nowadays are very sort of narrative driven, and you can have these emotional connections to characters. I'm playing a story right now that I'm feeling pretty connected to the characters. They spend a lot of time developing these relationships, and you're like, oh, okay, I feel like, I really know these people because you spend so much time with them. In fact, we have another episode that you go check out on AIs being companionship. That was episode 240. We were talking about AI girlfriends. And so go check that out. But that's the positive side, right? Yeah. There's also this whole other negative side. Barry, I know you've done studies on this. I want to get your opinion on this.
Yeah, I just wondered, how is your AI girlfriend? Is she okay?
Oh, I haven't talked to her in months. When did we do that episode? It's
that's way back now, isn't it? But you're right, though.
One night.
I'm sure some people would be quite happy about that. But you're right. There is this. A lot of things have been highlighted as an outcome of using video games, and sort of basically online gaming, and some of that is around things like you get that enhanced hit of dopamine, particularly when you're doing games that require a lot of activity and reaching goals and doing that type of thing. So you get that dopamine addiction. It's been, if you're spending all your time on your insert proper gaming platform here, if you're spending all your time on your gaming platform, then how does that affect your relationship, your real world, or what people class as real world relationships now, with your partners, with your housemates, if you're your students, with your family, with your children, and things like that. There is
Not your AI girlfriends.
not your AI girlfriend. I think they will be fine. Though at what point do they start bugging you? You've got some physical health related risks as well, because you are doing most of these sedentary. You're sat in. I mean, gaming chairs are getting much better and things like that, and you can spend a lot more money on doing that type of thing, and the ability to get some sort of articulation at home, so like moving platform, and that is becoming cheaper, but I wouldn't say it's accessible. But you're largely sitting down playing these things, so you're not getting out and you're not doing exercise as such, which is, we all agree, as much as I don't do it as much as I should, is a good thing to be doing. You can get this exposure to environments that you are not necessarily going to get exposure to, so toxic environments and things like that. And whilst you're doing this, are you doing it at the most appropriate time? Because actually, if you're meant to be studying, or you're meant to be working, or in my case, maybe you should be writing a report and something like that, and I'll just take 5 minutes out, you crack on, and your 5 minutes ends up being an hour, ends up being, I'll just do one more 2 hours. And if you can't bound it properly, then it can end up being a problem. And it's almost like anything else as well, is why are you using the gaming? Is it all the positive stuff that you alluded to earlier, Nick, around, you're using it to improve your mental health and things, or are you just trying to escape the real world? Are you trying to do things that just don't exist at the moment? So there's an interesting bit where people will point out a lot of these problems. You could argue that actually, is that down to gaming, or is that down to just the people who are doing it? And actually, if the gaming wasn't there, then there would be another outlet for them. Because before gaming came along in such a way, the same was said for actual just TV of itself. The use of like violent movies, the greater use of sex within movies and things like that. People were highlighting that with pretty much exactly the same arguments, and so there is something bigger at play there, that means that there is a narrative around us being sat down and basically taking in screen-based engagement.
Yeah, I think the big difference, and the thing that scares some people, is the interactivity, right? The TV's passive. Video games are very active, and so there's this concern that, you play violent video games, and yeah, I made the comment in our pre-show that I live here in the States, and you could go and the Second Amendment's a thing anyway. So that's a concern, right? And is it a valid concern? It depends. It depends on the person. I think ultimately that's what we're coming down to, is that this largely depends on the individual, their tendencies, and how they react to certain stimuli, i.e. video game in this circumstance. And so it's like, should you regulate it in some way, shape, or form to where more addictive personalities are time-based? And I think you can sort of see some of this stuff with like parental controls. Parents are able to go in and limit how much their kids can play in a day. You can say, okay, only 1 hour or 2 hours or whatever, your threshold is. I do want to follow up on one thing that you were talking about with the negatives here, the toxic environments. And I want to elaborate a little bit on what that can do for somebody's mental health. There's you go into comment section on any YouTube video, or you hear, somebody on the other end saying really terrible things about your mother. There's consequences to that. At some point, do you fight back with those same words because it's easy and that behavior has been modeled for you? Or do you sort of engage in the behavior where you report that? And that's more, that needs to be sort of easily, you should be able to do that very easily, right? Because the barrier to entry for that should be less than the barrier to entry to reciting those things back to the other person or anything like that. And so those toxic cultures can really sort of over time, if you're in a group of these things, it can have groupthink effect on you, and that's no good either, because then you're just creating more of the problem. So just wanted to follow up on that. There's a couple extra things that we can dig into here as it relates to mental health. And I was starting to allude to it a little bit with parental controls, but if you think about the way that the youngsters are growing up these days, they're actually using video games as a social hub. They're using video games as a way to socialize with other people. It's kind of like a bar, but for children. Instead of alcohol, you're looking at epic shoulder pads of friendship, or whatever. So really, we're looking at these situations where you have children engaging with each other in these sometimes collaborative, sometimes competitive environments. And from what I've seen, anecdotal evidence, of course, it's pretty healthy in most cases. Like, it's just a part of life that they've experienced. And so you have these kids just playing Minecraft with other kids, building stuff together, socializing. And then you also have, the ones where maybe they're competing against each other in like a fighting game or something. And then you have sort of this mutual respect for each other afterwards. And that is healthy. That is healthy.
Mm-hmm.
And that's where my mind is at. Like, I think I'm leaning definitely good thing, and I don't know if that's biased because I game myself and anyway. Where do you want to jump next?
Well, I mean, just to almost continue with that to a certain extent, it goes back to the evolution of gaming as well. So when you looked at gaming in the, say, mid-90s, they were all sort of arcade-based, one-to-one fighters. There wasn't the team play wasn't really a thing because the technology just didn't make it work. When you looked at the is it the MMORPG, so the mass multiplayer games, they were very script driven. There were the graphic fidelity was really low. You couldn't actually talk to anybody. It was very text driven and things like that. Even as you evolved through the 90s and the early 2000s, the games that you get now have got so much more facility within them. That the fidelity of the game and the tasks that you're trying to largely complete are much broader. So you're not just going from starting point A, walking across the horizontally across the screen, beating up a boss and getting a goal. The game is richer. But also you've got this idea of a communications platform underpinning it all, which is largely based on voice. So you can actually talk to each other. You can be collaborative. You can work together to achieve the common goal. You can share opinions, and then, as you quite rightly say, more people are using it as a platform to discuss. And maybe the game is slightly, in some respects, turning into an aside, where they're actually talking about it. People are streaming their own gaming performance on other platforms, and sharing how to do things. So the whole game environment has evolved. And when I was doing work around digital native, digital immigrants, and that type of thing, another category of people, subcategory of people came up, which was gaming native, or game natives, where people who are who sort of grow up and are just playing games and are so used to that are game native. People more like me who maybe come and try and play games and engage with things like that are more gaming immigrants in that respect. But it's becoming an evolution, and then there will be, I suspect, when we the augmented reality, the virtual reality games do, because they're still sort of on that brink of being brilliant, but they're not quite brilliant yet. When they become brilliant, then I think you'll have then another evolution again. So then you'll be looking at Ready Player One, that type of interaction. So it's interesting to see the evolution. We've seen exactly that same evolution with social media. We've seen the same evolution with the internet in general, and it's all about connectivity and talking. And we're just doing it on a much bigger and broader basis. We're not bounded by the physical constraints that we've had historically, like your neighbors, the people who live in your street, the people who go to your school, the people who go to your workplace. You've got opportunities to engage on a much broader basis that we've just never had before.
Yeah, I think that's right. And you're also, like you were saying, the community is growing, and I think you're seeing this increasing number of spaces designed around these in-person hubs for gaming, right? You have gaming cafes, gaming bars, lounges, other social events where you have people in the same physical space doing things. And you mentioned the metaverse too. This is happening in the metaverse. It's happening in a virtual environment as well, where you are designing these spaces with the intent of having this interaction with others socially. And so, yeah, we're seeing this sort of huge shift from being a single person experience to, I mean, the shift has already happened, but even more so, I think, as games become more ubiquitous, you're sort of seeing that shift even further into incorporating it into a part of our everyday lives, not just for the people who consider themselves gamers, but even for people who, might just play. I say just play something on mobile like Candy Crush or whatever. I consider those people gamers. That is a video game that you're playing in your hand, and I think gatekeeping those types of people is bad and obviously toxic. But when you think about those type of people having sort of Words With Friends was another really big one a couple years ago, 10 years ago, 10 years ago. Like, you know,
You go, uh-oh.
yeah. Anyway, you have these other sort of highly social games that sort of have these connections that you can build. Now, I want to take a minute to talk about sort of social opinion and how that has changed over time, because this is, we have a comment on our chat tonight from Laka Lecha on Twitch. They say, I'm excited for the main story this week. I'm actually doing some work on video games and effect on social opinions. This is more of a video game as a social activist medium and its effect on political opinions in the short term. It's been interesting. I'd be interested in hearing more about the violence work. So that's in reference to a comment that Barry was making in the pre-show. Do you want to talk first about the violence work, and then we can kind of go up and do the social stuff?
Yeah, so from this more hits us more in the engineering side of things as well. It's around how do we use this type of engineering, this gaming engineering for training. And so we've done some fair amount of work, or the military's done a fair amount of work around the world around utilizing gaming technologies to train people to perform warfighter capabilities, be that pilot, be that a soldier, be that sailor, all them different things. So everybody will be aware of things, games that allow you to be within a flight simulator, or being part of a special ops team and things like that. All of them have got such a high level of fidelity now that there's a lot of people rolling up to recruitment centers who already know how to use weapons, for example. They've never actually touched one, but because of the inbuilt gameplay that they do, they already know how to utilize a weapon. They might have a really good understanding already of tactics, or how to utilize a tank, how to fly the basics of an aircraft, how you would do that type of thing. And to the point that when we've done studies around what do people expect when they come and join the Air Force, for example, there was always that common misconception that everybody wanted to join the Air Force to fly. And so, because historically, that's what people would do. They want to become a pilot. They want to fly an aircraft. They don't want to fly these simulators. That's just silly. But then now that's all switched. The people who are joining, they've generally been gamers one way or another in their time. And so they're coming and say, whoa, why do I fly an aircraft first? Why don't I learn on the simulator when I can make mistakes, get it all wrong and all that type of stuff, and then go and fly the aircraft when I've got a level of competence? And it's now you're getting that social acceptance of that going all the way through. And so there's a whole lot of that going on, which yes, it's using gaming to basically deliver violence one way or another. But it's an interesting way of using that. And there's no reason why that can't be used in other domains as well, such as nuclear safety, like learning how to control your nuclear reactor. Or we've seen games around surgery, so doing slightly funnier games around like doing different types of surgery. But actually, you get some quite serious ones that sort of just take you step by step how to do transplants and things like that. we could be pushing this type of technology into that type of domain, making people who come to learn, to become doctors and things like that, actually with maybe some level of skill already.
Yeah. We're getting into sort of different from the social aspect. So let's loop around back to that. But I want to continue this thread as you're talking about training and education, because there's some really interesting things going on here. There's sort of this procedural based approach versus a knowledge based approach where you have sort of training somebody how to do something step by step, right? That might be, how to fly a plane in a flight simulator, like you said. You flip this switch, then you flip that switch, you look at these things, and then you hit the throttle, right? So that's procedural. And so when somebody gets into a plane, they know to do all those things. Then there's the knowledge-based approach where you can also mix and match these. By the way, this is not mutually exclusive. You also have things where, you might learn about some controls in an airplane. I'm going to keep with that example. But you also might have other types of games that inform you how to do something, right? You can see educational games out there. The things for children, like learning numbers, letters, shapes, music, math. All these things are you can do them through games. In fact, my son has a toy that sings at him and plays like a shapes game on a remote. You also have other types of games that engage that engage people in certain circumstances. So we did a study, or not a study, we did an episode on a study that was looking at in-flight safety instructions, and how that communicates process and education to the passengers of that plane. It told them a process. So I'm jumping back and forth here between knowledge and process, but ultimately what we're looking at here is that using games as a medium for training and education actually works best when you have some sort of engagement from the player rather than just sort of this passive instruction, which is why it's such a powerful thing when you have that interaction. I alluded to it at the top. TV is passive. Video games are active. It's an active experience where you are interacting with this world. And so if you have if you have these, you're seeing more and more domains accept video games into the process by which they do things, right? I mentioned the airplane safety training video. If you want to go listen to that episode 214, I've listed a bunch of episodes that you can go back and reference because all of them tie into this one episode. It's a nice theme. You also have some of these space simulators, flight simulators. Simulations are basically games. Come on, let's be honest here. And then, you can do fun things in them that you can't do in real life, like fly a Cessna upside down and a 737 upside down, all that stuff. You also have these other applications of it where maybe a workplace will have a game night focused around a team building exercise, and you have a game there that encourages teamwork or encourages some like friendly competition, interaction, socialization amongst their workers, right? So I'm thinking something like the Jackbox games where you have everybody sort of engaging with a centralized platform, and there's sort of this social element where you need to be engaged in what's going on. They've hijacked your phone, and so you can't like look at your phone while you're doing any of this. You're forced to be engaged in that situation, and so there are other applications out there that are looking into this. So I wanted to bring all that up. Do you have any comments on that before we head over to the social side? Because I do want to make sure we loop around to that comment.
No, let's go and hit the social side, because otherwise I think we'll never get out of here, because there's so much there's so much I could just keep on talking about. But yes, let's hit the social.
It is great, right? So we talked a little bit about sort of this overarching perception from the public on video games, but then this comment here specifically is looking at social activism within video games. So you have like propaganda posters in war games or something along those lines. Or, you have more and more companies taking a stance now on sort of progressivism, social justice, that type of thing. Like, for example, just a couple weeks ago, there was a modification for a Spider-Man game that removed pride flags from the game. And the host of the mod site basically said, no, we're not doing that. We're taking that mod down because you're an idiot. Don't do that. Right. So like So you have more and more of these types of situations happening where you have social activism within the game, and this also opens up the discussion for, is video games art? It absolutely is. Let's squash that right away. But that art then conveys sort of the collective vision of the people who worked on it, and so when you have those pride flags in Spider-Man, that is a collective decision from that studio, from that company, that have put those in there as an active choice to express their support for the LGBTQIAP plus community. Like that is so cool to me that can happen now. And it's sort of combating this toxic environment, maybe encouraging it in some cases, but I would like to hope that it's combating that toxic environment more than contributing to it. Do you have any thoughts on that, Barry? I kind of hijacked that conversation.
Yeah, I just wondered when I was going to be able to get a word in, because no, because you're right, but it goes back to kind of what we said before in terms of the way that games have evolved. So you've got the game itself, it's got a narrative, it's got a background, and there is lots of opportunity for the game designers, the game developers to put their messaging, whatever their messaging is, and liberally put it through. Now they can either put it, very physically in front of you, or they've got opportunities for more subliminal messaging and things like that, about how to think. So that's at one level where they've got an ability to, because I guess games are more storytelling now as well, is that we expect more of a narrative, we expect a bit of immersion. Therefore, they have an opportunity to be able to do that. And whilst I haven't seen it yet, how long is it going to be before we get, like say, campaign sponsored games or campaign bolt-ons for large multiplayer games, where a campaign maybe for, I don't know, a presidency or something could encourage, sponsor a bolt-on, and it becomes part of the narrative. So that's sort of the one half. Then the other half is, as we've said already, it is a communications platform. And so from that perspective, there's a lot of work being done around how does social media work with political campaigning, or any sort of really campaigning around social justice or anything like that. So how does social media work in that respect? This is now another platform where it's almost exclusively younger members of society, who is the hardest demographic to be able to message to currently. This opens itself up as an ideal platform to be able to get in and get messaging to that type of, that cohort, that bunch of individuals. So I don't think it's necessarily being leveraged very much at the moment in this respect, but I don't think it's going to be a million miles away as soon as people realize how to leverage it. And that's the key to it to a certain extent. Because if you just rock up into a game that you probably never played before and start throwing out messages of pro such and such a candidate, then you're going to be called out for what you are and largely ignored and probably booted off the platform. It's how you do it in a more subtle way that yields greatest results. And we saw that all the way through the social media side of things. And there's some interesting bits been done around sort of like what President Obama did around when they made greater use of text messaging and then initial social media and things like that. And that was a real revolution in of itself. This is possibly that next level of revolution about how to leverage this type of stuff. So it'd be interesting to see how it develops.
Yeah, I kind of want to end it there. Do you have any other loose ends that you want to talk about before we?
I have one, and really,
Okay.
it's all about what we call uncanny valley, and that is basically that element of disbelief that you have around the engagement, the game that you're playing. Does it respond to real life? Is it around real life? And most people, when they're playing games, recognize they're playing games because this thing of the uncanny valley, that they know that they're playing a game because they're not totally immersed in it. They recognize there's a difference, and that will always be the dividing line between gaming and real life. The closer, the more we shrink that and make that disappear, and that's more around your VR gaming and things like that, then I think that's when we're going to start hitting different types of issues. But at the moment, that still exists pretty much everywhere, and that's going to be the biggest challenge to hit.
Yeah, my sort of closing thought on this, and the reason why it all depends so much, and why this is such a significant study. I think that's that's kind of what I want to end with. First off, I'll mention what games they used. So they used Animal Crossing New Horizons, Apex Legends, EVE Online, Forza Horizon 4, Gran Turismo Sport, Outriders, and The Crew 2. Not so much the significance of what games they chose to use, but the significance of the data source that they got them from. So this data actually originated and was provided directly from the game's publishers, which is really a hard thing to do when you think about it. The vast majority of video game studies rely on these self-report measures from gamers, and so this is hard data that they're getting directly from the publishers, and that is awesome, and that's why this is so significant. Is because we're really seeing different patterns from different types of people.
Mhm.
And it depends. All right. So with that, we just want to thank our patrons this week for selecting our news topic. And thank you to our friends over at MIT Tech Review for our news story this week. If you want to follow along, we do post links to all the original articles on our weekly roundups and our monthly roundups on our blog. You can also join us on our Discord for more discussion on these stories and much more. We're going to take a quick break and we'll be back to see what's going on in the human factors community right after this.
Human Factors Cast brings you the best in human factors news, interviews, conference coverage, and overall fun conversations into each and every episode we produce. But we can't do it without you. The Human Factors Cast network is 100% listener supported. All the funds that go into running the show come from our listeners. Our patrons are our priority, and we want to ensure we're giving back to you for supporting us. Pledges start at just $1 per month and include rewards like access to our weekly Q&As with the hosts, personalized professional reviews, and Human Factors Minute, a Patreon-only weekly podcast where the hosts break down unique, obscure, and interesting human factors topics in just 1 minute. Patreon rewards are always evolving, so stop by patreon.com/humanfactorscast to see what support level may be right for you. Thank you, and remember, it depends.
Yes, sincere, huge thank you, as always, to our patrons. We especially want to thank our honorary Human Factors Cast staff patron, Michelle Tripp. Patrons like you truly keep the show running. You keep it going. I want to take a minute to talk about what Patreon supporters help pay for behind the scenes, because I don't think it's immediately obvious. You know, we put out a thing every week. It's an audio platform, but we also have video, and so we need to pay for the tools in which we use to record the video and distribute that video. But we also use the video as the recording. My cat is making a cameo on the video right now as we speak. So if you were to watch us on those platforms, you could see my cat. Anyway, it also helps us host the podcast itself. That costs money. We have a website that we need to keep up and running. We have automation behind the scenes that really helps us keep track of some things. We have a whole lab that you're supporting, really. And there's products and services that assist with some of the audio and video production that we have going on here behind the scenes. All that to say, those who financially support us are really financially supporting us. There's a lot that we have to take care of, and that truly helps, like, a lot. So thank you. All right. I've groveled enough for your money, so I think we should get into the next part of the show.
It came from...
That's right. This is the part of the show called It Came From. We search all over the internet to bring you topics the community's talking about. If you find any of these answers useful, or if you like this cat that keeps so lovingly headbutting me, give us a like wherever you're watching to help other people find this content. We got 3 of them up tonight. A rarity, but we have a couple of them from the Human Factors subreddit. So we're going to go with those first. This first one here is from DXBYDY. On the Human Factors subreddit. They write, "Is human factors too specialized?" They write, I'm currently an undergrad studying mechanical engineering, and I'm super interested in human factors. I've been talking to a few of my professors to ask them their advice on my graduate school plans, and one of them told me she thinks human factors is, quote, too specialized of a field, and I should pick something, quote, more general in order to avoid limiting myself too much. I thought this was kind of strange since not only is the whole point of graduate school to specialize in something, but human factors is such a versatile field that it applies to literally every industry. I'm curious as to what people think. Is human factors really too specialized? Barry?
I think your professor needs to go out and do their own research. No, your professor's wrong, quite frankly. Human factors isn't too specialized. It is a unique field, but that's because, and we were sort of alluding to this in the pre-show, that the human factors is one of these topics that literally reaches out into every single aspect, because aspect of engineering, of science, of all that type of things, because it is that interface between us and technology, and that it exists everywhere. You can apply it, and in fact, I would say it goes even further. That's why we struggle to define it really well, is because it is so ubiquitous. So yeah, short form of that is they're wrong, and human factors is a great thing to study, and I thoroughly encourage you to go and do that.
They're very wrong. They're very wrong. It's the whole. It is the sort of psychology, engineering, jack of all trades quote, right? It's jack of all trades, master of none, but oftentimes better than a master of one. And I think when you talk about specialties, no, it's not super specialized. There's obviously an underlying set of principles and methodology that you follow, an understanding about the world that you subscribe to, but you can take that and apply it to any sort of domain, process, procedure, the 5 P's, the 6 P's, whatever the P's are, process, products, procedure, all that stuff. And so, no, it's not specialized. It's the opposite. It's completely the opposite. Anyway, nothing else to say out of that one. Let's get into this next one here. This one's by Peko Yama on the Human Factor subreddit. They write, is UX research saturated? I'm an undergraduate student, and I'm planning on focusing my concentration on human factors. I heard about UX design, and it seemed really exciting and something I might enjoy as a career. However, I'm a bit worried that it's a bit more saturated because all the people who are doing boot camps for it. I do plan to go to graduate school, but I'm just conflicted if this is the route I possibly want to go to due to the saturation, and unsure how to really stand out in that case. Would you agree that the market is saturated? And is it going to get harder or more competitive in the future? Should I be worried, or am I overthinking it? Barry?
Overthinking it. Next.
Yep.
No, I think so. Give that the consideration it deserves. So, firstly, UX and human. So, in my mind, UX is a subset of human factors. Human factors is a very broad domain. So, if you're going to go and do look at human factors, you will learn about a lot more than just. I said just UX is a larger domain in of itself, but with the HF around it, there is a broad range of stuff you can go into, and that will allow you to go into a broad range of industries. It's not really. We've discussed the things around boot camps and stuff before. Boot camps, for me, give you a good introduction to things, but they don't necessarily give the depth and breadth of something to give you a true mastering of the art, as it were. So, if you're looking to do a degree in it, then you will get much more than just what a boot camp can give you. Will it become saturated? No. I mean, in the UK, there are literally, there's loads and loads and loads of jobs out there for human factors people. We've just thrown a new we've opened up 3 positions ourselves, and we're a very small consultancy. And almost every HF consultancy I know is crying out for HF people at the moment. In the States, I'm fairly sure it's not too dissimilar because the nature of the way things are. But I'm sure Nick will give us an update in a second. But fundamentally, there's loads of jobs out there. I can't see it going any other way but up in that respect. And it's a fantastic domain to come and work in. So get on with your degree and come and join us. Nick, what's it like in the US?
Yeah, you're right. I mean, there's plenty of jobs out there. I will say that sort of the competition is at the senior level right now because you have this entry level. I wouldn't say saturation. It's people think they can get away with those boot camps, and I wanted to comment on that. Boot camps aren't a way to kickstart. It can kickstart you, sure. It's not. It's like, I don't know. It's It's like taking a weekend course and expecting to be a surgeon. You can't. I'm comparing us to surgeons. That's not true. It's like
We're way
I
better
don't
than
know.
surgeons. I
No,
didn't
I
say
mean,
you cut that out, Gavin.
no, keep it in, keep it in. We're, I mean, like, look, here's the thing. It's like it'll get you so far, but it's the experience that you have doing something, working on projects, or working in a tangential field with transferable skills that can also be another way to sort of break in. And so you have actually a lot of people doing that right now, where they're trying to transfer these skills into UX because there is a demand, and that demand is quite lucrative in some cases. So that's why a lot of people are transitioning to it. And so over time, yeah, we're probably going to fill up because you have folks who want to get into the field and are excited about it, but then you also have people who are getting discouraged about it and want to leave. So UX is a burnout. Like UX, the field is a burnout. Human factors is a little different, but UX can be a burnout for some people, just based on the way that companies handle it.
Yeah, I mean UX at the moment, I think it's fair to say it's trendy at the moment.
Yeah.
It's really popular. There's something about it that feels really pizzazz and really cool in that respect. That will get taken over by something else trendy at maybe 5-10 years down the line, because that's just the nature of the way the domains evolve and that type of thing. But so specifically around UX, I think that yes, you're right. It's a not high turnover, but there's certainly it's almost explosive in the way that
Mhm.
it's sort of developed and gone. But that's why definitely go down the HF route. You will get UX in there, but you will learn the broader domain.
Yeah. All right, let's get into this last one. This one's fun. This one's by Hyper Hoshiko on the user experience subreddit. They're saying work around posting work examples. I'm looking to add more UX to my portfolio, though I'm not allowed to post work examples from my job. Could I work around this by using pseudo examples, such as saying this is a website that promotes X, Y, and Z, but change the name and designs as well? Barry, how do you, and I think this is a larger question, how do you get around NDAs or instances where you can't necessarily share what type of thing you're working on, i.e., defense, with classification issues and that type of thing? How do you get around that issue?
Um, it's not easy.
Don't
I
take
mean,
my
certainly
answer.
no, and I'm not going to, because I think in certainly with a lot of the work that I've done, you're talking not just about what's on a screen, but the physical aspects and the trials that you've done and things like that. It can be quite difficult to do. Sometimes, I mean, I've worked on some projects that there's some stuff in the public domain, so that's fine. So, and it's some of the examples that we talk about on this podcast, I have to sort of box clever with what I'm saying. So I can say that I've worked on like platforms like the Harrier, the Tornado, the Typhoon, things like that, but I can't really go into too much detail about exactly what. So you can describe the type of things that you've done. So I would describe maybe the processes I've been through to get there, the types of systems that maybe I've developed. So I've developed a lot of mapping displays. I've developed a lot of communications displays, and so you can allude a lot from that. But I can't exactly say, look, he's the exact design document I wrote, because it tends to be classified, and well, I guess in the US we all know about classified documents at the moment, as well. So let's not worry too much about that. But so there is ways of talking around things, and I think you get more used to doing that the more you do it, and you understand what it is, what it is that you can talk about, what it is that you can't. Um, so yeah, I don't. I mean, I'll be honest. I don't have a huge amount of experience because most jobs I've gone for have been in the same sort of domain, and so you can talk about it to a certain extent. Um, if I was going to go to an absolutely new domain, I sort of tried to do that once, and I'll be honest, I kind of crashed and burned, because it was so difficult to try and translate what I did. Even though there was a direct translation, I couldn't really translate it because of the nature, the defense nature, going into a completely civilian environment. So it's difficult. But I think in maybe the UX world, you've got a bit more insight than I have, Nick.
Yeah, and I think that's right. So first off, I want to say being able to show something isn't necessarily what I'm looking for if I'm going to hire you. I'm looking for you to describe your process and you to describe how you would approach problems. And I think that's probably the better way to approach that whole question is talk about process, talk about challenges that you've encountered without sort of, um, if you can talk about them under NDA. Some NDAs are really strict, although I haven't, I haven't ran into anybody who signed an NDA that said I can't talk about my UX process. I've met, I know a couple people who say they can't talk about how a company has established a process, but their individual process is kind of fine because everyone kind of subscribes to the same thing. If you insist on showing a work example, you could always replace the images. So I don't remember where I saw this or heard this. Somebody who designs a porn site. Obviously, you can't put that on your portfolio. But what they did to get around that issue was they replaced every thumbnail with a cat picture and every video with a cat video, at least to show the final design. So that way you can see what type of work they did. And they talked about it from a cat video perspective. They just translated it into something else that's a little bit more palatable for a job interview. So, take that for example, I guess. Anyway, that's it for It Came From. And now just one more thing. Talk about one more thing. Barry, what's your one more thing this week?
So exciting news this week. The Ergonomist has been published, and it landed on my doorstep, and it has an article in it that's talking about sentient AI. And the reason that's exciting, doesn't that sound a bit familiar to you?
Familiar. Yeah.
It's because we had an episode on it on a few weeks ago. And out of that, where we talked about Google's AI and whether it actually truly got sentient or not, I worked with Dr. Mark Sajan and worked up an article on it as part of the AI and Digital Healthcare Special Interest Group. And lo and behold, and okay, useless for the podcast, but for great on the video, the article landed and it all looks there, and it's got in it, we mention Human Factors Cast and our illustrious leader, Nick Roome himself, as inspiring the article. And so it's nice to see almost a good linkage together of the stuff that we've talked about, inspiring another conversation and driving out an article for the Human Factors community to read.
Well, I got to be honest, Barry, I didn't have you inflating my ego on my Human Factors Cast bingo card tonight. So thank you. No, that's super cool. I'm looking forward to getting my copy. My one more thing this week. Oh boy, am I excited to talk about this. So I'm investing now in political futures. And what that means is that you are essentially putting in stakes to say that one outcome will happen over another. And so I put down some money over the last couple of weeks on Biden's approval rating and the Alaska special election. Mm-hmm. And let's just say that the odds for the way it works is that you buy in, anywhere from 1 cent to 99 cents. And let's just say they were very, very low buy-in for them to go a certain way, right? Biden's approval number, a certain number, and the special election going to Mary Patola, who's a Democrat in a very, very red, well, not very red state, but Trump plus 10 district state. And so I thought, you know what, there's a long shot. It's very low cost of entry. I thought, I'll throw around $20 or so, maybe a little more. But with that, such low stakes, well, yesterday, Mary Patola won in Alaska, and Biden's approval rating made it to where I thought it was going to be, and so I got an 800% return, which
nice,
is insane. Yeah. That's a lot of percentages, and so it's so rewarding because a couple weeks ago I talked about how I've been keeping up with politics so intimately. It's almost a sickness at this point, but because of that, I'm able to sort of sense the direction in which things are going, and I feel like I have more of a understanding about that than I do about stocks. And so anyway, I'm going to go with this.
Ooh.
That's my one more thing this week. And that's it for today, everyone. If you like this episode, enjoy some of the discussion about virtual environments and what kissing might do for your mental well-being in VR, maybe go check out that episode, our most popular episode, episode 246, Let's Kiss in VR. Comment wherever you're listening what you think of the story this week. For more in-depth discussion, you can always join us on our Discord community. Visit our official website, sign up for our newsletter, stay up to date with all the latest Human Factors news. If you like what you hear, you want to support the show, there's a couple ways you can do that. One, wherever you're at right now, you can like the video or leave us a 5-star review. Two, you can tell your friends about us. That word of mouth really helps us grow. If you're sitting by the water cooler and talking about Human Factors, let them know. Hey, this Human Factors podcast, pretty good. Or if you have the financial means to, we will take your money. It'll help support the show. I told you all the things it goes towards, and honestly, we truly are thankful for that. As always, links to all of our socials and our website are in the description of this episode. I want to thank Mr. Barry Kirby for being on the show today. Where can our listeners go and find you if they want to get your gamer tag?
Yeah, okay. You can find me on the social media at Baz_K. Or if you want to come listen to some interviews with key people in the Human Factors universe, then come find me on 1202 The Human Factors Podcast at 1202podcast.com.
As for me, I've been your host, Nick Roome. You can find me on our Discord and across social media at Nick_Roome. Thanks again for tuning into Human Factors Cast. Until next time, it depends. There was some echo on that one. And touchdown.
Nice. Oh, you found your synthesizer thing again. Or is your internet just now decided not to work properly?
What synthesizer thing?
I thought you had an echoey thing on.
Oh no.
Right at the last second.
Well, hey, we made it. Solid episode.
I could have done another couple of hours on that.
Yeah, I could have too. I could have done another couple hours on investing in political futures.
That's true. That's really interesting. That it's because I'd seen the result in Alaska. I hadn't seen Biden's ratings. So I didn't realize that they'd.
Look, you can invest in a lot of different things. Those are the ones that I chose to invest in because I feel like I have a better understanding of those than a lot of other things. Let's be honest, Alaska was on a razor's edge, and I thought that the odds were so low, or the buy-in was so low that I figured, what the hell, if it's right, then if not, then I've lost a couple bucks. And I got a lot more than a couple bucks back. So, I'm looking at the markets now, and I hope it's okay to talk about this on the platforms that we're on. So I'll read some of these off. You have some domestic here in the States and some international. So I'm not going to say the platforms. You can find them. And I'm not going to say what stakes I have on some of these other ones. So, and I'm not going to say which ones I have. So there we go. I'm covered.
You're really going to tell us anything.
No, I'm going to tell you what's out there. I'll tell you what's in the market. Do you want to hear some? Let's see here. Is there UK?
There must be UK next Prime Minister.
Yeah,
because we're about to find that out. I already know the answer is anyway.
Yeah, hang on. Where's So next UK Conservative leader.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. I could tell you what the buy-in right now is for each of these people. But you think it's going to go one way. Where is it going to be?
So it's going to go with Liz Truss.
Yeah, that's 98-cent buy-in right now.
It's almost a cast iron certainty.
Yeah. Everyone else is at 1 cent. So,
but there should only be one other person.
Well, there's. Hang on, let me read them off. So there's Liz Truss, Rishi Sunak. Yeah. I'm probably not saying these names correctly. Tom Tugendhat.
Yeah.
Kemi Badenoch.
Yeah.
Oh, Kearney.
These were all people who went in at the beginning, so they've all been knocked out.
Gotcha. Okay, yeah. So this market probably opened a while ago. Then is probably what happened there.
Because the people who should, so for example, the people in my opinion who should be winning are the likes of Tom Tugendhat. There was what's her name? Her name has eluded me. Anyway, so there's a couple there, and they've all got knocked out. So we've been left with Liz Truss and Rishi Sunak. And Rishi was the Chancellor of the Exchequer, so the finance guy who got us through. Would you agree with exactly how we did it, but basically got us through the pandemic. And they was like, "Oh, that's brilliant, well done." But we don't want you. We want the other woman instead. So yeah, so that I think we find that out in the next few days. I think.
Yeah. So there's a couple markets around that. There's like next European leader out, Boris Johnson. Next G20 leader out, Boris Johnson. So there's a couple that rely on that. And I have a feeling that those will refresh afterwards, and you'll be able to kind of who's the next G20 leader after that. You also have next African leader out. Let's see here. Next Latin America leader out. Putin, Russian president through 2022.
That's an interesting one, isn't it?
Yeah. So if he is no longer president by the end of 2022, it's a 12-cent buy-in right now. So if you say yes, he's not going to be, or sorry, if you say no, he's not going to be the president.
That will be
then yeah. If he wasn't.
Yes.
Let's see here. Yeah, there's a couple world ones, but here domestically, there's like state and local races, right? Like which party will win Georgia governorship, Florida gubernatorial, Arizona governor's race, Pennsylvania governor's race, and then they have the Senate, and then they have the House, certain competitive districts. And really it's coming down to those competitive races that you see sort of those markets open. But that's just politics. Now there's other types of economic sort of things that you can look at too, right? So like the Fed interest rate, the end of day price between US dollar and any other given currency between a certain range. So you can invest in those types of things. You can invest in what the inflation rate was, what the weekly close price of the NASDAQ, S&P 500, those types of things. US GDP is another thing. Jobs numbers, gas prices, unemployment, whether or not certain acts in Congress get passed, whether or not certain things are legalized nationwide. Moon landing. Moon landing before January 1st, 2025.
We've got to do that, surely. They're saying that we obviously had the Artemis rocket didn't take off the other day. It's going to go on Saturday instead. Hopefully. It is interesting, that, isn't it? I just want them to get on with it.
I know, yeah. So
on the whole political thing, I rediscovered one of my favorite series of all time, and that's The West Wing. And it's back on our satellite service here, and so I started watching it again from series 1 episode 1 to go to binge it all the way through. And even though, because again that was done in the time before social media, before the internet was just becoming a thing, and all that stuff, it's amazing some of the storylines that are coming out. Just seeing them in today's context, and you're like going, it's still brilliant. It's still absolutely amazing piece of bit of writing. It's brilliant.
Yeah, you want another piece of parody turned reality is Veep. There you go.
Well, yes, I've never watched. I think I watched a couple of episodes of it. It's been like what else have I watched? Madam Secretary, and then Parks and Recreation. So all of them sort of have their place, I think, in an amusing way.
So this one, sorry to jump back to this. This one I wanted to get to because I feel like you might be interested in. There's some climate related ones.
Oh,
So like New York City, high temperature today. Chicago, high temperature today. Will there be a hurricane hitting New Orleans during the 2022 hurricane season?
yes.
Total number of Atlantic hurricanes. Well, and the ones hitting the cities, you can invest in which one you think is going to hit the cities. Is it category 1+, category 2+, category 3+, that type of thing. And so the more specific you get,
your money is quite significant.
Yeah. Total number of major Atlantic hurricanes. Lake Mead water levels. Hurricane hitting New Jersey. Hurricane hitting New York City. Hurricane hitting Miami, Orlando. So like those are some interesting ones. You can do rain. Well, that's the Lake Mead water level. Anyway, so you can also do transportation, but they don't have any there. Like TSA cancellations is another. TSA check-ins, TSA cancellations,
Right. Okay.
Or flight cancellations, I think. You can do culture. What's under culture? Is there nothing? Oh, culture is things like interest rates, unemployment, those types of things. I don't know if that fits. I feel like that's more economics. COVID-19, new COVID-19 wave before fall. Yes or no?
Probably.
Of significance, I should say.
Okay.
And how do they?
But we just we've had a recent one that I think has been more significant, but we kind of it's just like the common cold now, I think.
So they do have the way I like the way they do this because they specify like the complete condition, right? So if the 7-day moving average of new COVID-19 cases for U.S. according to the CDC is above 200,000 for a single day, between the issuance of this market and September 22nd, 2022, then it resolves to yes.
Oh, that's good. So it gives you a really good, well-defined statement.
Exactly. It's not like, opinion based. I think it's return to March 2020 COVID level. By when?
By March. Then it sort of de facto's itself out.
Oh, by December 31st, 2022. So,
okay,
if the 7-day moving average of new COVID-19 cases for the U.S., according to the CDC, is below 11,790 for a single day between the issuance and December 31st, 2022, then it's yes. So there's some fun stuff in there.
There is. I've just realized that on Restream there's on the add source button there's a new tag that means you can add an extra camera.
What?
That's brilliant. I'm going to press it and just see what it does.
Do you have a secondary camera?
I could pull in a second input. That's brilliant. So thinking for places where we're going to be in physical locations, that means you don't need multiple computers. You can have just multiple heads. If that we need, I need to set up another at some point and test that. Oh, can I do that?
Yeah, we really should, because that would make things a whole lot easier.
It would. What do I need to do to make that camera work?
Well, can you? Can you do second camera, second source? That's the real question, though. Is if you can do multiple sources, then
how do you? What are you defining as a source? As in another computer?
Microphone. I need 2 separate microphone sources. Is what I need through USB. Otherwise, I have to use that big clunky mixer.
Yeah, I was going to say yes. The way that I deal with that is through through the Rodecaster. So yes, I can do that, but yes, you can't do that through this. I've got to work out. Right, hold that thought. I think I can do something.
Okay, hold on. I'm also gonna
Right, if that's so
to
good.
USB.
It's cooking. Am I still there?
There's got to be a way to make. Yeah, I'm still here.
Right, I'm going to switch on a second camera source, I think. Let's see what happens. That camera. So you should be able to. I've got a second source up there. You should be able to switch. I can't switch that source on. I don't think. I think you can.
Oh, yeah, I can. Do you want me to show it, or no?
But you can do. Yeah, it's fine. It's just the bottom of my chair.
Oh wow, we're getting underside of Barry Kirby there. Whoa, look at that! You're like reaching. Wow, that's cool.
That's because it's
wait, hang on.
It's on a shelf down.
Oh, it doesn't.
So
doesn't work for me.
if I could do, look, good. Hello, are you? There's a sort of weird thing that you can do there.
Yeah.
Right, okay, we can switch that off now.
Yeah, that's cool.
But that means that we could hook up other webcams, and that's really clever.
Yes. Oh, I love that.
Cool. Well done, Restream.
That is a killer feature. Yeah, good job, Restream.
I bet it does nothing for the buffering and stuff, but right, I can remove that as a stream. Remove source. There we go. And then I can
now I just need to figure out how to do 2 USBs to 1. I think you can probably mix them with some software. Take 2. I don't know. There might be. I need to look at how to do that.
Yeah, I was going to say I don't. Yeah, that's where you're gonna. That's the reason why I bought a new desk. Bought the Rodecaster was to be able to deal with obviously the audio being the primary. Now with this doing this as well, I mean, gosh, that's going to be really powerful. I'm still looking forward to EHF 2023 now. Because A, I remember power leads, but B, I'll buy more than one camera. In fact, I would try and get was Elgato do an interface for a digital SLR, and I do have a digital SLR camera that would enable you to use that as a camera head.
Even if there was like a USB mic mixer that just took 2 USB inputs and put them in, that would be sufficient enough for what I need. Because like this is too bulky. Yeah. This is too bulky. I'd pay a little bit extra for something that I could do that with, just like plug 2 USBs into, like, why is that not a thing?
Is it not a thing? I've never tried such a microphone.
Link to USB mics at once. I don't know, Google Foo right now.
Yeah, no, I'm just looking at all it is a hardware solution, but
2 USB mics as one source. How about that? 2 USB mics as one source at once. Press audio icon on the top of the clean feed. Oh, is it a software thing? Hold on. So it might be a slight delay.
Oh, you could just straight through the volume mixer.
Oh, really?
Yeah, because it would recognize that you've got 2 sources, and you should surely just be able to activate them. Let's go for more volume settings. It takes time to think about it. Microphones. Okay.
I feel like I should know this.
Volume mixer. Input devices. I might only pick one input device. Yeah, maybe.
Input device. Combine 2 input bases into one mic. So there's a bunch of let's see. There's a fly that's been flying around. I don't know if you can see it on camera. It's just really annoying. Link Jabber Skype conferencing. One more. Okay, yeah, great. Audio cable, virtual audio cable. That sounds like a completely legitimate, completely legitimate software that won't, steal my information. Whew. All right, hang on. We're gonna do some live tests right now and see if this works.
Have you got OBS?
I do.
OBS will take 2 audio as a digital audio mixer. So you can take 2 out. You can take 2 of them and then output that. Restream will take OBS as an input.
It's resource heavy for my computer. Otherwise, that'd be a great solution.
Maybe you just need to buy a new computer.
That's absolutely true. I do. I've had this since 2017, and so.
Oh wow! Yeah.
Yeah, it's.
Yeah.
Truthfully, I'm waiting for it to be unmanageable to die before I buy another one.
I've got one as a more high performance one than this one. This is almost my day-to-day laptop. I want to split it out, so I actually use another laptop for podcasting. I bought it as a media laptop, and then use this for my day-to-day. But I have the other one almost set up more permanently. So you might look at one time and having something else there. What have you done?
Oh no! Hold on. Wait. No.
Whatever you've done, I really can't hear it.
I know. How about now?
Oh yeah, you're back there. That's all good.
Okay, yeah. So I've plugged in my my mixer. I plugged in my mixer, so it just defaulted everything to it. So I'm trying to look at.
That looks quite a manageable mixer.
It's small. It's compact. I don't like it. I'd much rather the straight USB feed than having to deal with analog.
Right. Yeah. That's fair.
Well, you know what? If I'm not streaming from OBS, I wonder if it's going to be. Hold on. OBS.
You might want to. Yeah. If you want to bring that in as a feed, you might have to stream through OBS to get it to sync up, the audio and video to sync up. Otherwise, you're going to bring in. You can't just bring in OBS as an audio feed only. Oh no, maybe you can bring it in.
I think you can. Let's try it. So I'm gonna try. See if I don't mess with any of like the media stuff, like the video stuff. I think it should be manageable. File. Let's add a new scene, and we'll call this mic mixer. And we'll add 2 sources here. Audio. Input capture. Okay. And we will use this one. Oops. Riveting content for everybody watching us. I was going to switch to Barry Cam too, but...
Oh, I've disabled Barry Cam too, I'm afraid.
I know.
Yeah.
Wow.
But for next week,
can't even.
Now my plan for next week is now to have a second cam up and running. Even if I just bring in my second one from the office, then we could play. We could do like all sorts of multiple cam stuff.
We could. I'm thinking about. I have a second one that I can use too. That might be kind of fun.
Yes. Yes, because because you could do it. So when we're just doing normal talking, but then when I'm reading news, then you can switch to the other one. And when you're doing the It Came Froms, you can switch to the other one. So it could almost be like, wow, some like sort of media production stuff going on. That could be quite. That would make more work for you and make me look good. So I'm all down with that.
See, what I really want to do, or what I want the ability to do, in Restream, is to change the input of one of these on the fly. So like, I don't know, if I were able to go in and hang on. Can you do your second cam real quick?
Oh, hold on. I just need to. Laptop. Let's where's my mouse gone? There we go. Extra camera. Integrated. And there we go.
Unplug that. I just turn stuff off. You can hear me okay still?
Yeah. What about you?
Okay, good. Yeah, I've taxed my computer too much. I've done one too many things. OBS is really just not happy with me. Okay, come on, close it. Okay, so what I really want to be able to do is like, while, like, let's say you're reading the news, you go in and read the news. I would love to drag your second camera, or just second input source, over my face, so that way people get, like, I don't know, a video if there is one, or something else, so where I don't have to mess with the format right now, the videos, because the whole issue why I don't share video while we do this is because when I go to translate it for vertical, it's just it's hard to do because it's a lot of work. Let me put it that way. Not hard to do, it's just a lot of work. So Come on. Exit. There we go. Okay. Everything is freed up. Great. So, yeah, I would just love to take camera 2 and just throw it up there. Does that work? What if I take this one? Because the whole problem is if I turn it on, then it does this thing where it moves us.
And then you turn. Yeah.
I want to simultaneously be able to turn one on and turn me off. That's what I want to do.
I mean, maybe that's where we need to talk to. Maybe we need to feed back to Restream and say, "Great that you've done this. This is fantastic. What we need is the ability to. Because I almost need here the ability for me to swap feeds, to be able to switch. So I've got my one feed at the moment, and if it would be great for me to be able to hit a button and just to switch feed, rather than turn the feed on. And I shouldn't necessarily. Yeah. You shouldn't necessarily have to do all of that.
I mean, this feature is great if you have you have somebody with like who's streaming with a top-down camera where they're doing some like manual work on the table. That'd be great.
This will also work well for me because I do have some interviews that I want to do that I've got with people here that actually, and I did, so my wrap-up session that I did with Joe Paulson at the end of last year, he was actually sat next to me, but I had to have 2 laptops set up, and the microphone situation was just unreal. Whereas if we did it, then actually I could set up both of the cameras through the one platform. I don't have to mess around with multiples, and that would work really, and just go through my desk, which would be really, really good. So it makes it a proper studio. That worked really, really well. Yes, we'll have to see how it plays out. I guess our situation is, it won't be unique, but it is fairly unique. That normally you'd have like that proper guest and controller side of things, where there's some things that we want to do where actually it'd be useful to be able to hand off responsibility to each other when the other one's doing something, or certain responsibilities or whatever.
Yeah. Dang. All right. Well, hey, we're at time, so I'll look into that because I think is V. Hold on. Is V the thing? I think V turns on and off the camera. Let me see here. Yeah. See, that just turns.
Just turns off. It doesn't take away as a source. Yeah.
Yeah. So then.
Oh yeah, I can do that too.
There's got to be like add source and hold on.
Well, there will be. Where's my if I do that?
Add source.
Oh, I did the shortcuts in.
I wish. So hang on. Add source A. So what is A? And then Shift H. Hold on. So A. Oh, okay. That just gets me there. So Shift H. Oh wow! It's taken away the background too. That's insane.
That's probably a good time to end the evening, as you've just broken everything.
Yeah, everything's broken. All right, we're gonna get out of here. Thanks everyone. We'll see you next week for some more fun stuff.
Bye.
Bye everyone.
Human Factors Cast brings you the best in human factors news, interviews, conference coverage, and overall fun conversations into each and every episode we produce. But we can't do it without you. The Human Factors Cast Network is 100% listener supported. All the funds that go into running the show come from our listeners. Our patrons are our priority, and we want to ensure we're giving back to you for supporting us. Pledges start at just $1 per month and include rewards like access to our weekly Q&As with the hosts, personalized professional reviews, and Human Factors Minute, a Patreon-only weekly podcast where the hosts break down unique, obscure, and interesting human factors topics in just 1 minute. Patreon rewards are always evolving, so stop by patreon.com/humanfactorscast to see what support level may be right for you. Thank you, and remember,